Our next guest spent decades doing just about anything you can in the world of professional wrestling. He has been a referee, a manager, a general manager, and has even mixed it up in the ring. No doubt a future Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Teddy Long.
Hey, what's going on, players? How you doing?
Well, thanks so much for coming on today. How's everything going?
Well, hey, man, everything's doing great, man. I'm having a great time. A lot of people, been wondering, how to contact me and how to get in touch with me. So let me kind of brief you on that. You can keep up with me at my new website. It's called teddylong.com. You can go to teddylong.com and you can go to my Twitter from there. Or if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Teddy Player Long. And also on the website, it'll take you right to Facebook, take you to all my videos, all my podcasts, and anything you need to know, about me, you can find it all right there. So, and other than that, man, doing a lot of independent shows and stuff for a lot of guys, having a lot of fun, getting out on the road, meeting all the players again, and I'm really enjoying myself. I had a chance to come home for a while, get some rest, get my health back in tack, and I feel great, man.
Well, it's great to see that you're so busy. I've been looking at this teddylong.com. It looks amazing. I had a couple questions about it, though. I see that there's going to be a Teddy Long's fan and playa club that's going to be launching really soon. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Well, we're working on that right now, man. I'm meeting with a team of guys. We got a bunch of interns that are working for us, man, doing a great job, and getting stuff out there. So right now, it's not too much I can tell you about it. It's, all I know is maybe about, I'd say maybe September, October, we should have it up off the ground. But the Teddy Long Players Club, it won't be a fan club, it'll be a Players Club. So we're going to be offering a lot of stuff. You can go there and you can, get merchandise and you can get a lot of things. So we're still working on that right now. So I didn't want to say anything about it until I make sure that we done finalized it and we got it up and ready to go.
You got it. You got it. Now, I also see that there is a book that's going to be coming out soon as well, Life After Wrestling. What can you tell us about your process of writing this book, and has it been good for you to get all these stories from over the years out on paper?
Well, what inspired me really to do it, I had a real successful career in professional wrestling. My total years in for professional wrestling is about 33 or 34 years. And, and I'm not trying to sound racist about it, but me being as a black man, in this sport, it was hard and it was a struggle. But thanks to the, grace of God that he blessed me to make it, where I am today. And I had a real successful career in professional wrestling. So a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, a lot of people don't know, and I think a lot of people would like to know. So we're going to put stuff like that in the book. Some, road stories where, we had a great time on the road, laughed and joked, a lot of, the book ain't going to be a lot of negative stuff. You know what I mean? I don't feel like people, want to read negative stuff. People want to read something that's going to benefit them and something that's going to help them in the future. So that's what the book is going to be all about, man, is putting stuff in there that's going to benefit, people and help other guys that are trying to become professional wrestlers. I hope there's something that I can put in the book there that will inspire them to continue, their pursuit. Also, we're going to talk to a lot of other wrestlers. They're going to be, having some words to say in the book. I already talked with WWE Hall of Famer Ron Simmons, and, me and Ron, we go way back with the team of Doom. And, he's going to have some quotes in the book and a lot of other people. So that's another project that we're working on. The main thing we had to do, is we had to get the website up and get it going. And so finally we got that done. So now we can start working on the other parts for the book, the Teddy Long Players Club, and a lot of other stuff that's going to be added to it. So, I definitely will promise you around, September, October, we'll have some new info out about the book and also about the Players Club.
All right. Well, that's great. So I know that, usually your wrestling career gets talked a lot about, what you did in the business and all that. But I was curious to find out if you had a story about how you first became a fan of professional wrestling. Did you watch it when you were younger, or did you go to any of the shows? Do you remember any of the people that you really liked back then?
Well, the way I got started in professional wrestling, I liked it. I watched wrestling. I started watching it on TV, and at that particular time, there were people around like, the Four Horsemen were there. You had Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, Kevin Sullivan, some of the all-time greats. The Undertaker, he was back there then. He was Mean Mark Callis. But the way I started, in professional wrestling is I just started going down to the TV station here in Atlanta where they were taping the wrestling shows. And I used to go down every Saturday morning and watch the tapings. And I happened to run into Abdullah the Butcher, who came to Atlanta and he didn't know his way around, so he kind of needed somebody to show him how to get around. So I started riding with him, and on Saturday mornings he would come and get me and take me down to the TV station for the taping, and that way I had a chance to get in the back, where the guys were. So the first job I had, and this wasn't a job because I didn't get paid for it. I used to go to the ring and I would get all the jackets and stuff. When the guys took off their ring gear, I would take that from them and and take care of it. And I would also clean up the TV stations, where there was a mess. I just did a lot of stuff around there that I didn't get paid for. But like I said, I paid my dues. But anyway, that's how I kind of started. And one night, the first job I got was putting up the ring, taking the ring down, and they needed somebody to do that. So I got that job, and I started getting paid for that. So I started getting some money. So after I got the job of putting up the ring, taking the ring down, we had a show one night in Marietta, Georgia, at the Cobb Civic Center, and the referee didn't show up. And so the promoter, Louise Manning, she's still alive today. I had a chance to thank her, for giving me the job because, she was one of the people that, made it happen too. So anyway, Louise asked me, could I referee? And I told her no. She said, well, don't worry about it. We don't have a referee. So get on in there. I'm going to get you a shirt, and the guys will help you. They'll talk to you. They'll take care of you. So the first match that I had was Ron Bass and Black Bart, and it was a Texas Death match. So I did that match, and then I did some more. And finally, Dusty Rhodes gave me the job. Gave me my first job as referee on the TV. So that's kind of how I got started.
Did people in your time have a harder time breaking in than people today, do you think?
Well, times have changed. You know what I mean? So you can't expect, the guys of today to do what the guys of yesterday did. You know what I mean? I mean, that was just like, what you done, to make it. Guys don't have to do that now. The business has kind of changed. It's different now. So opportunities are not as easy, are not as hard to come by as they was back then. So I wouldn't expect anybody to do that. I mean, I think if somebody breaks into the business now and they've got a, gimmick or whatever they've got and it's going to work, it's going to make money for the company, then if they don't have to pay any dues, fine, put them out there. Times have changed, so I'm just saying what I had to go through and probably a lot of other, people. I mean, and this just wasn't black people there. It was white guys that I worked with back in the day too. They had to struggle too, just like I did. So it wasn't no racist thing. It was, everybody, had to struggle back then. So, like I said, I wouldn't want anybody to have to go through that. I'm glad, things have changed now, and guys can come in now and kind of, get over and, make some money, and they don't have to go through that stuff.
When you first decided to start getting into the business and helping out or whatever, did you have any backlash from, family or friends or anybody telling you that you really shouldn't get involved with professional wrestling?
No, I didn't have any backlash because none of my family and anybody watched professional wrestling. They didn't. They had no idea. They didn't care anything about it. So finally, when some of my family realized exactly, what I was doing, I had got a job as a referee on TV. So that's when they started noticing it. But they didn't pay me any attention, because like I said, they didn't watch it.
You started climbing the ranks of pro wrestling early in your career. After a referee didn't show, you were asked to fill in. How nerve-wracking was that experience, and what did you feel is the most important part of being a referee?
Well, the first match that I had, it was really horrifying because, like I said, it was a Texas Death match, and in those matches, the guys just bleed all over the place. And that was the first time, I'd been in there, with the blood and stuff, and it scared me to death because I thought these two guys were going to kill themselves. So I was really horrified, but they talked with me and, and we got through it. You know, Refereeing all over the world, it was a great experience for me. I enjoyed it. I think that one of the matches that I remember that was really great for me, in my career, I had the match in Chicago at Chi-Town Heat. It was Ricky Steamboat against Ric Flair. So at that time, Flair was on top. He was a man. And so to have the opportunity to get in there, with the World Heavyweight Champion and to referee a match like that, it was especially an honor for me, and I was really excited about that.
Now, you were like we mentioned earlier, jack of all trades in the world of professional wrestling. Not too long after you started being a referee, you even started managing. Um, who would you consider some of your favorite managers of all time? And was there specific things that you learned from them?
Well, some of the guys I didn't meet, I had a chance to work with Jim Cornette. He was a great guy. He's really a great talker. And a lot of people don't know this. When I was managing Doom back in the day, and Cornette had the Midnight Express, we worked with them for quite a little bit. And they used to have this name that they called me, and it was Peanut Head. And that was the name that I didn't like. Well, Jim Cornette was the one that started that. He started calling me Peanut Head, and I love that because we made money with that. And people, they couldn't wait to call me that. So Jim Cornette, he was a great guy, great manager. I also had a chance to meet Gary Hart. God rest his soul. I mean, he was a genius, man. I certainly learned a lot from Gary Hart. A lot of guys that I wish could have met, like Lou Albano. I didn't never get a chance to meet him. The Grand Wizard, I never got a chance to meet him. But yeah, and by the way, Bobby Heenan, I had a chance to get with Bobby. What a great guy he was. So he was one of my favorites. And that's about it. Like I said back then, it wasn't a whole lot of a lot of guys doing any managing, but some of those guys that I named, and Skandar Akbar, he was another one. He was another great. I had a chance to meet with Skandar, so that's about it.
As a manager, you managed both good guys and bad guys. Did you find it easier, or did you enjoy playing a certain role?
Well, I enjoyed working with the heels more than I did the baby faces because, at the baby, when you're working with the good guys, there's not a whole lot you can do. So when I was working with the bad guys and I was being a heel, I enjoyed it because I enjoyed the cheating part, and I enjoyed, interfering and, causing a ruckus and making the people real mad. I enjoyed that. So I enjoyed being a heel more than I did the baby face.
Okay. Now, obviously, in the world of professional wrestling today, there aren't a lot of managers. Do you think that's something that should still be a part of wrestling today?
Well, I would say yes. I still think it's needed because you got a lot of guys in the sport, that are, got a great look, great body and everything, but they have no mic skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you got some guy, that can talk, or, and talk a good game, know how to get his guy over, then I think you should use that. So, like I said, it is limited now. There's still a few around, that come out, but I totally agree that I think it's still needed because some guys, they need a mouthpiece. And like I said, Roman Reigns, for instance, I love him. Great look, great body, great guy, man. But his mic skills are a little slow. And that's not only him. There's been a lot of guys that wasn't able to talk. And that was, when I had Doom with Butch Reed and Ron Simmons, not them not being able to talk, but, I just had the jive part about it, the soul part about it,
Yep.
and that's kind of what the people like. So, like I said, I think managers are always needed.
That's awesome. Now, in the late '90s, you made your way to the then WWF, now WWE. You had traveled all over the world for different promotions. What were your initial thoughts about the company that you had just joined whenever you got to WWE?
Well, I got to the WWE in 1998, and everybody's dream was, when you worked in the NWA or you worked in any kind of promotion, it was always the place that you wanted to be because of, the Hulk Hogan era, and it was just great there. And so everybody always dreamed of, hey man, boy, if I could finally get to the WWF or the WWE. So when I finally made it there, it was great for me. I went in as a referee. And that didn't bother me at all, even though I'd been a manager and did a lot of things in professional wrestling. That was like a step down. But you just go in and you have to kind of continue to pay your dues. So I went in as a referee, didn't bother me at all. I was getting they paid me well. I had a good check, didn't bother me at all. And so I was just lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. When somebody said something to Vince about what I could do, and they brought me in so I could, and I had the opportunity to show him what I could do, and I went from there.
You began your WWE career during the infamous Attitude Era. Were you surprised at how popular wrestling became during that time?
Well, I was when I went to the WWF, I did. It was certainly a lot different from being in WCW. WCW was great. Don't get me wrong, man.
Hmm.
They were doing okay, but it was like a cancer. It was just something just waiting to spread. You know what I mean? It was just bad. Behind the scenes, the way things were being ran there. So to get away and to get where a professional company was great. I mean, it was ran professional when I got to working in the WWE. It was just a whole different. It was like night and day. And so I was happy to be there.
Now, after being a referee for some time in WWE, you became what you're arguably best known for, and that's a general manager. What were your initial thoughts when you were told that you were going to be a general manager? Were you happy to get that role, or were you what was going through
Well,
your mind?
it was Vince's idea as to put me in the role of general manager. I had no idea. I knew nothing about it. All I knew, I walked on the TV one day and they told me, said, "You're going to be general manager tonight. Vince is going to make you general manager." So it's pretty nervous. I hadn't, that's a pretty, top position to be in. That's like being right on top. That's like being world champion. That carries a lot of responsibility, and I had never, had that much responsibility, bestowed upon me. But what are you gonna do? I can't say no. And so I just took it and I said, hey, it's me and God. You just show me the way, and I'll make this happen.
Well, you became just extremely popular person in the world of professional wrestling. What do you think about yourself made all the fans love you so much?
Well, because my character was me. That's why. Because and when I first started managing, they wanted me to be like Don King. I'll never forget. The writers came and told me that, and I just never, I never did take their advice because I couldn't be like Don King. I mean, I just couldn't do that. But I had street swag. I've been out in the streets, all my life. As a teenager, I call myself a little hustler on the street. So I had street swag. So I took the street swag to TV, and that's what made people like me. I was myself. When I started saying player, I started. I had a big lab, a door retriever, a big dog named Boss. Well, I used to call Boss player. Just around the house, I just kick around, and I pat him on the back. Boss, get out of the way, player. And I just took that to TV. And the other thing I did with the dance that I started doing, I got that dance from my grandson. My grandson, we bought him this little walker thing, and we used to put him in it. And every time he'd get in that thing, he'd start bouncing around. And so I just took it to TV and started doing it because I wanted him to see me doing his dance on TV. I never did think about, people would start liking me to do the dance, but that's how the dance came about. And a lot of things that I said on TV, it just came from me. I mean, they wrote a lot of my stuff. And matter of fact, Vince McMahon was one of the main writers. A lot of my stuff that I did, it came from Vince. Vince wrote it. And that made me feel real good, for him to trust me, with his project, stuff that he wanted. But he knew that I was going to go out there and he knew that I was going to make it happen. And so, he gave me a great opportunity, and I wouldn't dare do nothing to let him down. That's my whole thing was, man, I'm gonna make this man proud of me. He gave me the ball, and I'm gonna score some touchdowns.
It seems that wrestling may be on the cusp of another boom period these days. What are your thoughts on the current state of professional wrestling?
Well, I don't think really nothing has changed. I think a lot of things in professional wrestling now and professional wrestling now is, gotten a lot better, especially for the talent wise. We see the WWE, we see Raw, and we see SmackDown, and those shows are, struggling a little bit. And that's kind of because, they need, some more talent there. They got guys on the roster there, but, if you're seeing the same guys every week, sometimes that kind of gets stale. But you have to have different storylines. You have to have different things for them to do so that they don't get stale. And like I said, there are a lot of guys I know that they have in NXT that they're training and getting ready to bring them up, And so hopefully that they can create some stars with some of those guys from NXT, and get some new faces out there, and get wrestling back to like it was. But I think it's going to, let me tell you something about Vince, man. He's a genius. And when things fall down, he certainly knows how to pick them back up. So I think, there's just going to be a big change here after WrestleMania, and I think the big change is going to work.
Now, are you surprised kind of with the amount of mainstream coverage like TMZ, ESPN, Rolling Stone that professional wrestling's getting today?
Well, yeah, well, it should. I mean, wrestling is a big brand now. You know what I mean? People watch it. It's all over the world. So, yeah, I think it's great. That's how I believe, wrestling came to be as big as it is today because of cable TV. And when social media took over, I remember Vince saying one time that social media was going to be the deal. Wrestling was basically going to one day move to the internet. That's where it was going to be. And so you see with the network and all this stuff, all that's working, So it's just changed. It's the 20th century now, man. And time, things are changing, and certainly you have to change with it.
Now, speaking of Rolling Stone, the fabulous Freebirds are being inducted into this year's Hall of Fame class. They're also joining Sting and The Godfather. Do you think you'll be going to this event this year? And what are your thoughts about this year's class so far?
Well, I think everyone that they're inducting deserves it. You know what I mean? The Freebirds, Michael Hayes and them, they've been around a long time. I had a chance to work with those guys back in the day. So they certainly deserve to be there. The Godfather, was great in, with his character and what he did. He deserves it. Everybody they inducted Sting. Sting's been around. I had a chance to work with him when I was in WCW, so everybody deserves that. Now, whether I'm going to that or not, I haven't got a call from them. If they call me, I'll be happy to go. But if they don't call me, I won't be there.
Right.
So, like I said, I congratulate all of them. Everybody that they're putting in there, I feel that they deserve it.
You now spend a lot of time traveling around to independent wrestling shows. What do you think about how far independent wrestling has come, and what's your favorite part about doing these shows?
Well, it depends on what independent wrestling, which show you're at, what group it is. I've been to some independent shows and they've just been really bad. But that's because they don't want people to tell them what to do. They think they already know everything, and so they don't want to listen. So a lot of guys on the independent scene, they don't understand, about drawing money. They just jump in the ring and think you're supposed to take a lot of bumps and yell and scream at people, and that's it. But there are a lot of guys out there, and I'll give my credit to one guy that's down in Louisiana, Luke Hawk with Wildcat Sports. I had a chance to go down and work for Luke, and Luke has got his stuff together down there. And also, there's a group that I am running now. It's called the Alabama Wrestling Federation. I'm the vice president of that company, and we'll be doing a show this Saturday coming up in Pascagoula, Mississippi. So what my thing is, when I watched Luke Hawk, I had a chance to work with him. Luke had a meeting, just like we're having, like we're having at WWE. You meet with the guys, you meet with the wrestlers, you have rehearsals, you do things, to make the show be as best as you can make it, because that's what it's all about. You give the people a good show, that's what they want. They're going to come back to see you. So like I said, that just depends on what independent wrestling company it is. But there's some guys out there, that, like I said, Luke Hawk with Wildcat Sports, he's done great with that. I'm doing good there with the Alabama Wrestling Federation. I had a chance to go with some guys there this past Saturday night in Illinois. It was called Crash Test Wrestling. They're doing good. I'm also involved with another independent group down in St. Port Lucie, Florida. It's called Ignite Wrestling. They're doing a great job. So I'm going to be going down and helping those guys run that company. So we're going to, try and get that, it's off the ground, but we're going to try to make it better than what it is right now. Also, another guy that's JB Cool. He has Fighting Evolution Wrestling that comes out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He's got a nice company down there that he's trying to get going. So I'll be working closely with him. Also, me and Ron Simmons and Tuco Scorpio and the Boogeyman will be on a show down in Miami for a big spring break on March the 25th. So that we got that coming up. So I'm just enjoying giving advice to the independent guys, especially when you find some of them that want to listen to you and they want to learn. But like I said, you got a lot of them out there that think they know it. They'll tell me they've been in the business 10 years, 15 years. So, but they don't know. They still haven't learned a thing. So they don't want to learn. They already know. But to work and give guys advice, that are trying to make it and hopefully make it one day to the WWE, those are the guys that I enjoy talking with.
Who are some of
Lightning
your best
round.
friends in the wrestling business?
Well, I have Mike Yoda. He's one of the referees there in the WWE. Me and him are real good friends. I love Mike. R-Truth, he's a good friend of mine. Mark Henry. Another great guy, Alberto Del Rio, really nice guy. And certainly The Undertaker, man. I had a chance to work with him over the years. And he's one of the nicest guys that you could ever meet. So there are a lot of guys that I'm friends with there. I got along with everybody. You know what I mean? If I had any heat with anybody, they never told me. But, you always got heat. You can't, everybody don't like you.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, like I said, those are two names there. Some guys that Ron Simmons, great, good friend of mine, the Boogeyman. Just in fact, I talked to Boogeyman today on the phone. So there's a lot of guys there. John Cone, he's another one of the guys, one of the referees there. So, I could, think about it. I could name a lot more, but we're gonna move on.
What does haterade taste like?
It's real nasty. It tastes like cod liver oil. If you ever drink cod liver oil, then you know what haterade tastes like.
All right. Now,
all right.
You mentioned The Undertaker. Who are you rooting for this WrestleMania match, Shane or The Undertaker?
Well, I tell you what, I'm really rooting for Shane McMahon because I tell you, if Shane McMahon does defeat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, I think it's going to be good for the WWE because I think that Shane is going to come in now and going to make some new changes there and get things, off the ground and, and I think the changes or whatever is going to come is going to be good for the company. So I'm rooting for Shane, even though I love The Undertaker, but I think there needs to be some changes there, and some, start all over with some stuff, and get this thing up, back up like it once was. So I'm rooting for Shane.
What is something you wish people knew about you?
Well, I wish that people would kind of ask me, maybe something about maybe my life before professional wrestling. A lot of people, they think, once you're on TV that you lived this good life and you went to college and you did all this stuff. Well, my life, I came from drugs and alcohol and I never had a chance to go to college. And so I was, God bless, I didn't even get a high school education. I went back and got my GED. So I enjoy talking about, my past life because I'm able to talk about it. A lot of people I know was doing the things that I was doing. They're dead and gone now. So, to be able to share my story with some young people or even old people, anybody that I can help and give them some advice so that they don't, live that life that I live and, get on the right track. And that's what I'd like to do.
We definitely want to thank you so much again for joining us today. We'd love to have you back on anytime, maybe whenever you get the website launched again and the book as well. But please don't forget to follow Teddy Long at Teddy Play Along, and the website is teddylong.com, correct?
Right. And another thing, too, hey, if you guys go to the website, I'd like for you to hit me back and let me know what you like. Or if you don't like something, then let me know about that so maybe we can fix it. So I'd appreciate hearing from all of the players, let me know what you think about it.